Online. Listen, I want to talk about humility today and self-belief and self-esteem. And this is something that I myself for years was confused on. In fact, I thought that to have positive self-esteem, to have positive self-belief was the opposite of being humble, and that to be a humble person that you had to think low of yourself, think bad things about yourself, punish yourself, put yourself down all the time, and base your beliefs about yourself on what other people say. And that if I believed in myself different than other people, then I wasn't humble. And that's what I used to think, is that if somebody thinks bad things about me, well, then if they think it, then it must be true. And everything that other people thought about me, I was taking in on myself. And so I thought that that was the way to be the most humble, was to take everything that everybody thinks about me, and that becomes who I am, is all other people's thoughts about me, because at least I'm thinking low of myself and not thinking good thoughts about myself. And so then I would attach to the lowest, worst thing that people would say about me, whether it be true or not, and that was what I thought about myself. And that's what I thought humility was for years. And it almost ruined my life, to be honest. I think that for somewhere along the line of bad religious teaching and just trying to please people and trying to make people like me, that I had this framework in my head that to be humble, to be a good person, I had to think bad things about myself all the time. I had to never think good stuff about myself. And I had to always base it off of whatever everybody else was saying about me. Whatever everybody else was saying, whether it was true or not, that I was able to do, how good I was. If somebody said I was a terrible person because I did this or that, then that's who I am. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to live your life based off of that. And so all that to say, I want to encourage you that if that's you, figure out a way out of that. It's a prison. And I know it because I lived in it for so long. The prison and the worry of what everybody else thought about me, because I wanted to be humble. Like, I had such this desire to be a humble person, to have humility. The most successful people that I know are humble people. They're highly successful, right? But they're also very humble. And so I'm like, okay, to be that, I have to do this. And it was like the opposite. And so I want to encourage you in this. Your self-esteem, the belief that you have in yourself, is actually where humility comes from, because you're not getting it from outside of you. And that might tweak your brain just a little bit if you've been operating in the framework that I used to. But what I realize is that humility comes from actually believing in yourself. Humility actually comes from having a positive self-esteem, believing that you're an awesome person, believing that you're good and do inherently good things, and go out there to be a kind and compassionate person, and your actions follow those beliefs, by the way, as well. But you don't need other people to tell it to you. In fact, the most non-humble thing that we can be is basing our identity off of what other people say about us, because then we're requiring other people to agree with it. And we'll do everything in our nature to get people to think more elevated thoughts of us. Or, in my case, I was doing everything to get people to think the worst possible thing about me at all times. It was very interesting. Very interesting framework. No matter how much good I did, I would try to get people to think bad things about me. It was very, very strange. Looking back, that's how I lived my life. That I live my life thinking, to be humble, I better make everybody hate me as much as possible and think horrible things about me. And when I realized that the respect that I have for myself, that I needed to have more respect for myself, that I needed to treat myself with respect, to love myself enough to say, hey, listen, I know the truth about myself, it changed everything for me. And so I want to encourage you that if that's you, if you're somebody that is operating in that way, constantly punishing yourself, constantly thinking negative about yourself, constantly putting yourself down, going into situations where you're trying to convince people that you're less than you really are. Oh, I'm not that good. People praise you for something and you say, "No, I didn't do that. It was somebody else." It's not humility. It's actually false humility, which is rooted in pride and narcissism. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, it is. Because you're wanting people to think good things about you and think better of you and think, "Oh wow, they're so humble." And so it's this need for people to think you're humble so much that you're trying to manage the narrative and control what others think. It's actually pretty sinister. It's actually pretty dark. That's the root of, I think, a lot of people pleasing as well. It comes from that. And I think, listen, if you want to be successful as a business owner, if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, especially if you're watching me, you got to break out of this. Your income will follow the level of self-belief that you have in yourself and how much you believe that you are able to. You can't sell yourself if you don't believe in yourself. You can't sell a product or service to people if you don't believe in yourself. They won't buy from you. They won't want to. They will want nothing to do with you. Okay? And again, your brain may tell you people wanting nothing to do with me is humble. It's not. My friend, learn to build good relationships with people. Start thinking good thoughts about yourself. Start encouraging yourself. Start becoming your biggest cheerleader. Watch your life change when you do this. This will allow you to truly walk humbly and blameless. Because I know that's probably the desire for most of you. Is when you think the thoughts that God thinks about you. And that's really what it is. He thinks you're awesome. I think a lot of people think that God thinks that they're terrible people. And then they live their lives based off of that framework. And they punish themselves and they think, well, if God's not going to do it, other people aren't, then I'm going to. And again, that was the framework of how I used to live. No more. Please start treating yourself with more love and respect. Please start realizing that you are worth being respected. Start realizing that you are worth far more than what you've convinced yourself of. Stop putting yourself down all the time. Stop trying to make people think less of you. A lot of people take this idea of to think less of themselves, and so they can say, I'm going to make others think less of me, and then that's going to be a good thing. That's not what that means. And that's what I used to think that it meant. And now I know that to truly walk in my calling, my destiny, to walk in humility as best as I can every day, that I need to actually think good things about myself and encourage myself and show up as my best self every single day instead of my worst, and to stop punishing myself and being so negative in my head all the time and thinking that that's a good thing, that's going to make me look better to people and people are going to like me more, and that being my goal. My friends, you can't attach how you think of you based on what others say about you at all. Start believing in yourself today and watch your life and your business change. We'll talk soon, everybody. Have a good one.